Hi, my name's Jonathan Hicks. I'm back at the Dice Cup, and this evening I'm joined by
John.
Shane.
Andy.
Tim.
And we just finished playing Imperial 2030. Now, when you look at the board, it looks kind of like Risk, and it is to a certain extent. You have all these different countries that are building ships and tanks and spreading across the world trying to conquer each other. However, there's another very important half to this game, which is the investing side of it. You can kind of buy shares effectively in a different country. You're kind of buying bonds. So you pay a certain amount of money, and at various points in the game they will pay out interest. But crucially, as the countries expand and control more territory, there's this power rating you can see at the top here that goes up. So as these little tokens move up here, there's like a multiplier at the top, and if you get all the way to the top, it triggers the end of the game with the ×5 multiplier, and that's multiplying the value of your shares in that country, and that can be huge. At the end of the game, it's the number of it's most kind of money that wins, if you like, but it's the multiplier of the power times this plus any cash you have in hand. The thing you've got to be careful of is that each country has their own kind of bank as well, but that's different from player money. You don't take a country as such, you're buying shares in potentially many different countries. I mean, if you look at Andy here, he's bought shares in all the different countries. In terms of who actually controls the country and gets to do the expanding on the map though, that's the person who buys the most shares. So for example here, John had the most shares in India, so he was controlling the Indian country in terms of moving your tanks and things. How you actually take actions, it's quite nice. There's a little rondel at the bottom here. So each of the different countries, we kind of take it in turns. So always Russia first, then China. This is the player order. But then they move a certain number of spots on here. So if you were India, like John here, you can move up to 3 spaces for free. So you could either go production, which produces more tanks and ships. Maneuver, that's how they move around the board. Taxation is a way of looking at how many territories you control, and you effectively get money into the company when you tax. Factory, it lets you build factories. That means when you produce, you get more tanks and things. Then it's production again, maneuver again, and then crucially here you've got this investor spot. This is when you look at how much money there is in the country, and it pays out to all the people who actually own the appropriate shares in the country. So that's one of the ways of getting the money out of the country and into the players' hands. So there's this trade-off between kind of wanting to control the countries and spread out and conquer the world, except that's not going to win you the game. What you really want to do is what Andy did here, and buy shares in as many different countries as you can that are going to benefit from the power rating at the end here. And in fact, I think by doing that, Andy managed to win the game. All right, what do we think?
Oh, I don't know. I didn't really have a good time. I felt quite ganged up on as India. And then the trick is when you kind of want your country to actually be bought off you as well, so you can then invest in other countries as Swiss Bank. But if you're not doing well with a country, no one really wants to buy it. And but yeah, I don't know. I think it's got its flaws, but it's all right.
Okay, Jane?
It's a very daunting game at first. There's a lot to keep track of. It's very hard if you've never played it to try and make any kind of plans, because there's so much going on and there's so many different banks to track and points to track. So if you're new to this kind of game, you might find it very daunting. However, by the end of the game, I was kind of able to make some sort of plans. So not for the new players necessarily to these kind of games, but if you're experienced and like a lot of strategy, this is really for you.
Okay, Andy?
Yeah, you can approach this game as a war game. I think the first time I played it, that's exactly how we approached it. It was like all about conquest of territory and taxation. But yeah, you can play. I think it's not a war game. It is down to trying to get money at the right time so you can invest. Being in control of a country is essential, I think, because you can, if you are the Swiss banker for a huge part of the game, you can feel like you're not actually doing anything.
And that's where you don't control any countries,
yes,
isn't it?
Yeah, it's what I spent half the game doing. It's being a Swiss banker. You sort of feel like can feel like you're not invested in the game because of that, because you don't get to do anything. You just wait for people to cross the red line or trigger investor. Then you get to buy something if you've got money. But yeah, having a country is good because it lets you helps you control that as well. So you can control how what you're investing in. But yeah, I like this game. It's as well. It's yeah, it's different.
Tim?
Yeah, I liked it. It was a bit difficult to step into in terms of just having a clear strategy of what you've got to do, and then, like Shane says, keeping track of all the different banks and where you're meant to be putting money into. But once you got that admin down, it becomes really clear and really trackable. Like the board's really readable. You can see which country's doing well and what move they're going to want to make next. And then the fact that it's got a rondel also means that you can keep track of what moves they're likely to do next, because they can move the next 3 spaces on the rondel for free, and then it's quite expensive to start paying to move to go around more. So you can see they've probably got 2 goes before they're going to do something, and then is there anything I can do to react to that? Can I buy shares in them to try and benefit from any of that? So yeah, I quite liked it.
Rating out of 10?
Probably a 7 for me.
Okay. Andy?
I'd give this a solid 7.5 to an 8.
Okay.
I'd
Shane?
give it a 7, yeah.
Oh, it's too long. It's 4 from me, I think.
Okay. It is quite long, and it's a funny game because it really feels like 2 very different games merged together. It is like a stock trading game, and it's a war game, and you can get caught up in the whole wanting to conquer the world thing, which is fun. And as Andy says, if you don't actually control any of the countries because you don't have the majority shareholding in one of the countries, you can feel like you're not really doing very much because you're not taking part in the whole war game aspect. But at the end of the day, Andy spent a good half of the game not controlling any countries, and he managed to win by cleverly investing in the different shares in the countries. So trying to win and trying to conquer the world are 2 very different things in one sense. But I really enjoyed it, and I liked the way those 2 things fitted together. It gave me lots of things to think about that you don't normally have to think about in games. It's not necessarily about conquering the most territory. You've got to think, how can you extract money from the country? How can you use that to cash in? You might want to invest in your enemy's country to a certain extent because they're going to do very well in terms of the scoring at the end. So I was a big fan of this one. I've got an 8 out of 10. All right, thanks for watching. That was Imperial 2030.